But I think there's an idea in there that I've been really trying to figure out lately, and it's the idea of like self-belief, but also there being an element of like delusion in a way
Yeah, that's so
of
interesting.
creating a life and pursuing a passion that isn't ordinary or isn't
Yeah,
normal.
yeah.
And after hearing your story, that
Mm,
does provide another insight to me of just like to someone that I personally like aspire to get to one day
mm.
and look at the work that
Thanks so
you're
much.
creating. It comes and stems from a place of in the early stages in the beginning
Mm,
having an undeniable self-belief
mm.
that you're going to kind
So
of
nice.
succeed in
Yeah,
something.
yeah, yeah.
If you could kind of like look back at that time, where like did you have feelings of like
Mm.
regardless this is I don't have a plan B.
Yeah, yeah.
Plan A is
Is
my
this?
only plan.
Yeah, yeah, totally. I love that you say that in that way. Also, like I think delusional is a fantastic word for it, and I think also most of all, and this is actually something that I've been trying to like track back to a lot
Mm,
in the last 6 months, because I think in the beginning you're so like childish when you start out. It's like you're taking pictures of
yeah.
like literally everything, and then just like shallow depth of focus is just so fascinating, right? And it's like it's the world, and you have a sense of like this. It's just like this like ignorance is bliss kind of
Mm,
attitude, which is like amazing because you
yeah.
just do stuff, right? There's like no overthinking, because what happens later on, I feel, is like you get to a stage of like now you're starting to like get into things with your peers, and you're alongside of them, and like even competing for jobs and
Mhm.
stuff like that. And especially today, since like we have access to everyone's work
Right.
all the time, it becomes this like you're like next to everyone all the time, which is like super dangerous, I think, if you don't have the right sort of mindset to it.
Right.
Because what happens, I feel, and I've had seasons of that, but it's like I think you become afraid of going off track. It's like
Mm.
off track of what everyone else is doing. Because this feels like the right thing, quote unquote. Um,
Because everyone else is doing it.
yeah,
It's
exactly.
like following trends.
A little bit, yeah, yeah, for
Mm.
sure. And it's like I think most of all, it's also like not getting in touch with that like delusional side of you,
Yeah.
which is like,
Mm.
I mean, in the end, it's like your perspective, because like I don't think it's wrong for things to look similar, like just looks wise. But if you look at like different films that could like look similar, they can feel extremely different.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing that we like need to like embrace. Like how do we make it feel different?
Mm.
And I think that's so much like a perspective thing. It's like, what perspective are you taking? And it doesn't have to be like extreme visual differences or like an extreme look or anything. It's like, some things demand that and some things don't. But I think it's so much just like the feel of it. It's like,
Mm.
mm, like what is the thing that we're trying to portray, and like how do we decide to do that, and like how would I decide to pick up a camera and shoot someone who's like feeling vulnerable.
Right.
And I only base it off of that feeling,
Mm.
which is maybe based on my previous experiences, or maybe someone in my life that I look to who's being vulnerable. And it's like really being delusional and brave enough to go into that space and only be in that space,
Mm.
and not look to the left or the right, or like that person is doing that, or
Yeah.
because it's, I think like what happens is like you just become, I think you can become a little bit too aware of like
Mm.
what's going on and around you. I really like early stages is so beautiful, because it
You're
doesn't exist.
exploring.
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
just exploring. And I think we need to, it's such an active exercise as well.
Mm.
I think I've really had that like the last year or so, more so again, where it's like I'm feeling more and more detached from everything around me.
Mm.
And it's so much more like stuff that comes from inside, and I'm trying to like get it out in an image. And I don't know if it's like too much happening right now, like in terms of like actual result, but it feels good. It's like it feels really good. It feels like it's coming from inside. It
Mm.
feels like I'm taking from things that exist from the past, or from other people's experiences that I known, and I think I just want to be on that train of like keep exploring,
Right.
and keep being okay with like this might turn out horrible,
Mm.
but like I went for it. At least like I took like a chance on something, and because it just felt like that was the move to go. So I'd much rather be on that camp, and I really want to push, like I really want to push myself to be more on that side, even
Mm.
if it like the outcome is like horrible projects from like a little time now. It might be that time, but then it starts going into
Mm.
like really nice things that I'm proud of.
I noticed that like when I watch your work, there is always a feeling of like exploration. Somehow it could be a commercial for
Thank you.
like I forget which one. Was it IKEA maybe?
Yeah.
I think there's still a feeling of like freedom
Mm.
within it.
That's so
I don't
nice.
know, and I don't think it's something that you could actually look at and explain why,
Mm.
but there is an internal feeling that I get when I watch where it's like, oh, there is a sense of exploration and
Mm.
freedom within this.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And that to me is really fascinating. And it's hard for me to even comprehend that or even ask a question of how to
Mm.
achieve that.
Yeah, yeah.
But
I know what you're getting at.
it's, I guess I'm trying to figure out of like throughout your process,
Mm-hmm.
were there things that you've changed about your approach in shooting or
Mm-hmm.
working with collaborators that allowed you to feel comfortable exploring or like gain the confidence to explore in a way? It's a hard way to,
No, no, no.
I'm
It's
struggling to find the
yeah.
question there.
I know exactly what you're getting at. Um, yeah, I think again, it's like it's very connected to what I spoke about being like courageous and
Mm,
brave enough to go into something that's like it's not specific. It's like it's not this still image that we looked at,
yeah.
like for 3 weeks before shooting. It's just something that feels like,
Mm,
and I think, if I look at some of my collaborators that I worked more with, for example, one good friend is Niels Winfeld, who I shot this commercial with, for example, but we shot several spots and a short film together as well. And um, I think with him, it's actually like been one of the best collaborations I've ever had, to be honest. Because with him, it's so like we just kind of break it down from a core level, and it's like looking at like whose perspective are we shooting it from,
mm,
how does that look like, what's like the emotional core of things, and then from there on, like I think my process has been a lot more like trying to find that out from the director, like what are you looking to feel,
right.
uh, and I'll literally like just write things down. I I'm very like I'll like also be very picky with like not looking at things so early on.
Like references.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Like first conversations, I would love for us not to look at anything. I just wanted to talk about how it feels like, and
Mm,
depending on time, obviously, sometimes you don't have time, so that's that. But if we do have a little bit of time, I prefer us to just talk about it, and I just like write things down, like whatever. It's just like random notes about anything, and then after that discussion, I go into some kind of like reference work,
mm-hmm.
because then those notes are my
Guide.
navigator,
Yeah, navigator.
you know,
Mm,
because I feel, and this, like I feel like if you go the other way around, you like immediately get very like affected if you
mm,
look at something and then you go into those feelings, because then it also already has something attached to it.
mm,
It's like whether we like it or not. It's like this whole thing of like you build up an idea of how something should look like, and then you're not looking left or right anymore, or
mm.
back for that matter.
Love that.
So I think that has been probably the biggest
Mm,
change that I've done, and like biggest thing I carried with me. And then there's like obviously different like packages that
Sure.
take that to different directors, because some directors are super visual, some directors don't care about looking at the image, so I need to read them into different sections. But that has been the biggest thing. And then I go into the reference work, and that kind of like makes me look at things very clearly. Like I'll look at something and be like, that's amazing, because that's literally this word, and that's that, so it's like the direction becomes a lot more clear and right, I feel, rather than like the other way around, I would say.